The first reading, the hymn to charity, is often read at weddings, and when one is before a couple, there's always the mental question mark hanging over them in the priest's mind. Will it or won't it work? My friends, the enclosed monastic life and the enclosed marital life has something in common, the one with the other. One has to work on it. In both cases, things can go bad, or they can get better. Don't abandon it at the first pitch. It's a lifetime project, and one has to try and prepare them for that before, because one gets used to the other one and starts to treat that other one as a bit of furniture. Don't go there. They have feelings too. As in the monastic life, it's not easy. One has examples of things going very well and very badly over the monastic centuries. I remember hearing or reading in the history of the Cistercians how centuries ago there was a slight disagreement between the lay brothers and the abbot. And as far as I can make out, it was about 15 miles long, the chase of the lay brothers after the abbot, until the horses eventually couldn't run any further. James Bond. But there are other examples too, on the contrary, of charity well lived and correctly understood. One day we had a session, or actually a period, a few days, at La Trappe, and the Cistercians, the Trappists, male and female of Ireland, no, not Ireland, in France, were all together with us. And we had each evening, with the abbot's invitation, a couple of others to talk to us in chapter. One evening we had two mother abbesses, and I was moved by something that one of them had said just at the end of her talk. She was very large and geographically warm, a typical mother hen, and goodness exuded from her face, kindness, and that's kind of important in an enclosed community, if there's kindness coming from the top. As it does matter also in the family. If the mother, for instance, is in a bad mood, everyone else has to behave accordingly. So don't cause pain by bad fumes emitted just by a look. Remember others feel. But she came out with this, what happened the other day. Somebody had come to the door. Oh, what's your story? Well, it's like this, mother, said the good lady. I was here years ago, and I jumped the wall. I came back the following day, and the abbess said, you wanted to leave? Leave. And she left in tears for years. Mother Hortensius then asked her, but what made you come back, daughter? And she said simply, j'ai entendu que vous étiez born. I heard that you would come. One can find in the most extraordinary places examples of charity. You know that in the Great War, the First World War, there were amazing contradictions in that human inferno. This, for instance, is very touching. True charity. This was quoted in the Church Times at the time. An exalted person has visited the tombs of our soldiers fallen in August and September on the banks of the Oise, and found among many others 2 large mounds with wreaths of flowers laid upon them. The first bore the inscription, "Offered by the women of France to the German soldiers, our brothers in Jesus Christ." A second inscription read, "For the German soldiers, our brothers in Jesus, dead far away from their country, wept by their families, we pray for them." German mothers will read, certainly not without emotion, how France treats their sons fallen in the great battle. But then other things too started to get blurry at the edges, notably what you were, church-wise. Before a bullet, certain issues go onto a back burner and others come very quickly to the fore. And they were no longer engaged in debates about who might be right or wrong. The absence of proselytism among the Belgian refugees is another sign of the times. The general feeling has been voiced by Mr. McAvoy, a Congregationalist minister, at a public meeting held to welcome the refugees. Don't send tracts and anti-Catholic literature to our Belgian guests. It isn't cricket. But most touching of all is a story told in the Jewish world. Remember now, the human structure is exactly the same. All of us, sons of the Most High, trying our best to get home safe and sound. The chief rabbi of Lyon was attending to some Jewish soldiers when a dying Catholic trooper, mistaking him for a priest, begged him to hold up his crucifix that he might see it to the last. The rabbi held the crucifix before the soldier's dying eyes and spoke some words of comfort. In this act of charity, while his hands still held the cross, the rabbi was killed by a shell from the enemy. Faith before eternity. When a soldier is in front of probable imminent death, he's given a special grace. And the wars that we've had would have been the salvation of many who otherwise probably would not have made it. Unlikely candidates suddenly got switched on. On the evening of the Feast of All Saints, 1914, a young officer called at a convent in Westminster and asked for instruction. This was his story. He came of a Protestant family, but he had one Catholic friend who had spoken to him of the Catholic religion as the only religion to die in. He was up in London for the day and was to rejoin his regiment that night. They were to go to the front 2 days later. He said that he had a presentiment that he should never return. He had made up his mind to become a Catholic. He had no notion how to set about it. but finding that a man working in the place where he stayed in town was a Catholic, he asked his advice and was taken by him to the convent. On the way, sure was he of his intentions, he erased Church of England from his identification disc and scratched RC beside it. When he arrived at the convent, it was already 6 o'clock and his train left at 8:30. So Sister so-and-so, hearing his story, took him at once to a priest at Westminster Cathedral, who instructed him, prepared him for confession, and gave him conditional baptism. I had that too. It's, if you are not already baptized, I baptize you. Thank God, said the person, when the ceremony was over, now if I'm hit, I can call a priest. That night, he told his fellow officers of his reception into the church. And for the next 2 days, he had to stand a good deal of chaff, for he had never been considered a serious-minded man. And this apparently sudden turn to religion in a boy of 21 had bewildered his friends. On the 4th of November, he went to the front. And we have no record of his first weeks of Catholic life. From the 3rd of December, we have his diary. Here are extracts from the entrance. 4th of December, go to confession, Holy Communion. This was his first Holy Communion, and Mass in the morning. 10th of December, usual parade in the morning, feeling very fed up and unhappy. Don't know why. Parade, 7:30 to go back. There is no entry for the 11th. On the 12th, he lifted his head above the trench and was shot through the brain by a sniper. Death was instantaneous. Some days later, the following letter, marked to be sent after death, reached his friend. It was written on the 3rd of December, the day before his first communion. I have been talking to an RC priest, and I feel much better for it. If you ever get this, you will know I am gone to a better place. Live a pious life, and if I have gone to the right place, you will join me later on. It is very hard to write a letter that won't be delivered till after you've gone. Goodbye. God bless you and keep you. My friends, we are on the road together. The Lord gives us the consolation of someone here and there who helps us on the road. Friends are a gift from heaven. This Mass is being offered for Hugh Davey, a dear friend. We did many kilometers together, even on a boat and an aeroplane. Just before he petered out of contact with us, I gave him all the sacraments at the height of COVID, and said as I was leaving the room to the unchanged Hugh, full of tubes and barely able to talk, Hugh, you're great. What are you?